So I saw a really interesting TikTok the other day, and it dealt with carryouts and tips. And the person had the option of leaving 15%, 18%, or 21% on this receipt. And she actually put a line through all of them and said, no tips for carryout. And that's the way that it used to be. And I started doing the math because I eat out a lot. You know, in the morning, I go and get coffee. And that's maybe a little different, but I don't know, is it? For lunch, I go to a cafeteria where tipping is not an option because it's a cafeteria. Why would you tip at a cafeteria, right? But I don't know. I mean, they could maybe one day put that as an option. I don't know. I go to a pita place right down the street from work, carry out. I tip $2-3 there. Panera, I tip there. And I'm like literally going up to get my food. No one's bringing it to me. I love the Panera I go to. I'm a regular there, so I do like to tip. But if you start to think about it, I mean, even at like some convenience stores now you can tip, which is crazy. I mean, like, you know, and so I really, you know, the TikTok really echoed with me because it's a lot of money that's being given away basically for nothing. I mean, you're not being served, you're not being brought a refill, you're not, you know, really doing anything. I mean, you can actually, there's certain gas stations you could tip at now. I mean, why would you go in a gas station and tip? I'll take $10 on pump 8 and let me pay for this blow pop and this like monster or whatever. Oh, and by the way, let me tip you, 15% on the total. I mean, why? Why would you do that? And so I think that it's getting to the point where if you don't, you might get like a side stare or whatever from the employee, or you might feel embarrassed to not leave anything. I think a lot of people are sort of subconsciously guilted into it. Like nobody's actually guilting you, but you feel like this sort of like internal voice telling you that, you know, not tipping is just frowned upon and that you're cheap, or that, you know, you know, I don't know. It's just the weirdest thing. And so I figured, let me put this on Everything Else channel because it's everything else. It's not politics, it's not bodybuilding, it's not tourism, but it's one of those. And speaking of tourism, it actually does have a little bit of an overlap in tourism because we're starting to see that in other countries. You know, I'm going to Dominican Republic and El Salvador and Costa Rica and Chile and other places, and I'm starting to see it as well. And it's just kind of like, I wonder if the employers are using that as a means to not give out raises, or maybe, you know, employees are getting good pay and these tips for basically doing nothing. And in that case, I mean, it's not the end of the world. I mean, you know, the employees should be happy, but I shouldn't feel some sort of obligation to tip, especially when, you know, I mean, they're just doing their job. You know what I mean? Like, it's different with wait staff because they get paid like $2 an hour. They live off of tips. But if you're being paid a good wage to do your job, why should I tip you for doing your job? I mean, I just don't think that there is a reason to tip on carryout. And I think that it used to be optional, like they had a tip bowl and you could put money in there if you wanted to. And I understand that most people don't carry actual money around anymore. But it just seems like a lot of lost money. And I'm trying to, I think for the new year, you know, I'm single, I'm not married, so you know, I should have a lot to my name, and I don't. And I'm wondering myself, why is it that I don't have? And it's, of course, I spend a lot of money. You know, I spend every day I go to the supermarket, every day I get lunch and breakfast somewhere, every day you know, I'm just spending a lot of money. And so, but one of the things that I would like to do just to save a couple of dollars here and there, and it's more than a couple of dollars because if you think about it, if you eat out once a day and you're tipping on carryout, you're probably tipping, I don't know, like $15 to $25 a week tipping on carryout. I mean, that's insane. That's $100 a month. You know, not to sound like all Dave Ramsey or whatever, but that is money. I mean, $100 a month, $1,200 a year minimum, because it's like, you know, because when I go out to a restaurant, if there's a waiter or waitress, I'll give, you know, 18 to 21% if the service is good, 15 if it's bad. I don't recall the last time I did not leave a tip or 10% or anything like that. I don't do that. But that's a whole different scenario. I'm talking about tipping on what normally would never have been tipped on. You know, I mean, I don't know if maybe I'm just making a big deal out of it, but if I go to a register, you know, I don't know. It's hard to not feel cheap, you know what I mean? But I think if you stop yourself like right in the process of it because it's still sort of new, you could save a lot of money. I mean, $1,200, guys. Think about the many places you could travel around the world for $1,200. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, which, you know, seriously stinks in the sense of travel, because if I lived in Miami or New York or Los Angeles or Atlanta, you know, I could fly pretty much anywhere without connecting. But because I'm in Louisville, that adds like a couple $100 just to get me to a major city to fly out of. But even still, for $1,200, my goodness, for $600, I can go to the Dominican Republic or El Salvador. I could go to, for Chile, I could probably go for about $1,000, and that's still less than the money that I would leave tipping on carryout. Way less. $1,200, I could go like maybe economy comfort to Chile. I mean, that's you know, I mean, I could maybe go to Europe. You know, I could do a lot with $1,200. I could go to a lot of places. I could also, you know, if you wanted to do like lodging, you know, 3, 4, 5 days, or you know, for $1,200, it's like $200 a night, or a weekend maybe. You know, a weekend, a 3-day weekend for $1,200, you could stay in something, you know, a $300 to $400 a night room at a resort where you've got, you know, endless drinks and a coconut and a pineapple, and you can wet your feet in the pool. You could, you know, walk a few feet and be in the ocean. You know what I mean? You could get massaged all day. You could watch like a freaking 80-inch TV. You know, I mean, I'm serious. That was what the hotels were like that I've stayed in, and they were like not even $250 a night. So imagine with, you know, $1,200, you know, you could stay for like, I don't know, like $300, $400 a night. For $300 a night, you could stay for 4 nights. I mean, that's a vacation right there. I'm just saying, like, or $1,200. I mean, that's not enough to pay my rent, but it's still money, guys. It's still money, and it's money. And what bothers me though is that it's money that is not earned. It's almost like charity in a way. I mean, you're just honestly, because I don't know. I'm not a big fan of tipping on carryout, and I've been doing it for years because, you know, they've been adding it to these, you know, credit card payment features. But I mean, that TikTok that I saw, it just made me think, and I said, listen, I don't know if there's a lot of videos on this subject or not. It's definitely a miscellaneous topic. It's definitely an everything else type topic. So I'm putting it here on Everything Else channel on YouTube, everythingelsechannel.com. I really, really hope to get a few comments out of this. You know, if I get 3 or 4, 5 comments, if I get 6 comments, 6 real comments, this will be a huge success and well worth the 8 minutes I've been talking. But I'm just curious. I mean, does it make me cheap to not want to tip on carryout, or is it just old school? I mean, because, you know, if you're trying to build a budget, then you got to cut the fat off that budget. And I would think a big topic of fat would be paying for something that it's equivalent of throwing money away.